by Airbrush 1. My name's Lonnie Bush, and today we're going to make this head out of computer keys. If you've already downloaded the head from my website, you're pretty much ready to go. If not, you might want to do that, or you can use your own model. One thing that I want to tell you about the model before we get started, and this will apply if you're going to use your own model, is that I did a lot of work on these polygons to get them fairly square and fairly even in size, because the polygons are going to be what determine the shapes of the keys. So let's go up under Mograph. I'm going to show you how this is going to work, and come down to the Poly Effects object and place that as a child of the head. This Poly Effects is going to allow us to affect these polygons of this head individually. And just to show you what I mean, go back up under Mograph, come down to Effectors, and choose the Random Effector. And already you can see we've got all kinds of crazy stuff going on. So let's go into the parameters, put X down to 0, Y down to 0, and let's make Z 5. And so now you can see the polygons are kind of in different positions in Z space. Z space not backwards, Z space towards the center of the head, which is exactly what we want. And if you go into the Effectors tab, you can come down to Turbulence, and if we hit play, you can see we've already got movement on these polygons. Unfortunately, it looks too much like water, and you could fix that by, say, taking the scale of the noise down to 4, and now you've got more individual movement, but it's still too fluid. It's not what we are looking for. We want something that looks more like keys typing. But at least this demonstrates how we're going to do this, and I've got a much cooler technique for animating these keys later. So let's stop that. We can get rid of the random effector. We're not going to use it. So everything we're going to do to create this is actually going to be based on the UVs of the polygons. Okay, so if you select this object and you go up to Window, Body Paint, and come down to New Texture View, you can see what our UVs are looking like. And if I come in a little, you can see, I mean, we got them overlapping, and it's because I did all this work on this head, rearranging these polygons and everything else, and it would be almost impossible to texture this with numbers in each of these, and it's all a mess. So we have to redo these UVs so that they're usable for what we want to do. So let's turn the visibility off on this. If you downloaded this palette from my website, you can just hit visibility off, and that actually turns off visibility and render. And let's just go up to our objects and bring in a plane. You can leave it at 400 by 400. But what we got to do is we need to figure out how many polygons we need here. So what we want to do is go into the Viewport Settings, which is Shift V, and if you go to the HUD, you can make sure that total points, total edges, total polygons is checked, and also selected points, selected edges, and selected polygons should be all checked. That way we'll be able to figure out how many polygons this head has. So if we go back to our head, okay, and we go into Polygon Mode, now I know it's not visible, but it's still going to give us the reading. We've got 1,246 polygons. So if we take that number, I'm going to use my calculator, and if we take the square root of that, so 1246, square root is 35.2. So it'd be nice if it were 35, and then we just stick 35 in here, and we'd be done. But it isn't, so what we have to do is we're going to have to go over on poly. So instead of 35.35, we're going to have to go to 36. And I really want to keep these polygons square, and that's why I'm, each individual one is a square, and that's why I'm going to put in extra and then delete. So right now we should have more than enough, and I'm going to make a copy of that by control dragging, and I'm going to hit C to convert that to polygons, and we're going to use this plane, and I'm going to call it main. plane. So if we go in here now, we see that we've got 1296 and the head has 1246. So we've got 50 extra polygons that we don't need. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to select, let's see, I'm going to select this bottom row. That's 36. I'm going to hold down Shift and select a few more. That's 45, and I need 5 more. 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's exactly 50. So I'm going to hit delete and turn this off so we're not seeing that. And now we've got exactly 1246 polygons. And just double check, 1246. So right now we have the same amount exactly as the head. So let's take a look at the UVs for this plane that we just created and deleted the polygons from. I'm going to go up here, and this is the texture view, and you can see that now all our polygons, UVs, are arranged in a perfect grid. And that's what we want, so we can do more with it. So the next step, though, is we need to get that that UV map onto our head, and it's really a pretty straightforward process. So go in here to the UV map for the plane and give it a name. I just named mine Perfect Grid. Okay, and once you do that, just hold down Control and drag a copy of that texture tag onto the head. Okay, and so with that selected, I can see that that's Perfect Grid, and I'm going to go back here and just delete the original tag. Alright, so now if we go into our computer keys and hit this, you can see that now the UV map on our head is all in this exact same grid, which is going to be perfect. Just as an aside, if you want to dock this icon up here, it's pretty simple. Just go into Customization, Customize Commands, type in Texture View, and you'll see the icon, and you just drag it up and anywhere in here, put there. And if you want to get rid of it, click Edit Palettes, double click, and it's gone. Okay, and also you do need to save your layout if you do that, otherwise it'll disappear next time you open Cinema 4D. So now that we have that set up, go up and create a new document. Alright, and we'll just call this, it doesn't matter what you call it, whatever you want, top view grid, let's call it that. And go into your render settings and deselect lock ratio. We want it to be same as our texture, whatever texture size. Now I'm going with 2048 for the texture size. But if you think you're going to be coming in close, like real extreme close-ups on these keys or whatever, you might want to make that larger. I'm going with that for now. I'm going to go back to our other file, and I am just going to take our plane. I'm going to copy it, come into top grid, and paste. Okay, so you should have it in there. Display, show lines. Okay, so there we go in our new file. Save that. So let's go to top view and create a camera. Now that's automatically going to be a top view camera, which is what we want. Let's go back into perspective mode and let's activate that camera. Alright, and if you have this palette downloaded from my website, you can just go in and hit this to zero out the coordinates, rotation, position. Otherwise you can just come in and right click on these two little arrows and it'll do the same thing. So we need to we've got this set where we need it, and so we need to fill the box with that plane. So if we come into the camera and we start zooming, that's a little much. Okay, maybe 2.56 is what I come up with. Now you're going to have a space at the bottom, and that's because this is, we started with a perfect square, and these are the polygons we removed. And if you go into point mode for this plane, you can still see those points are there. I didn't remove them, and I'm not going to worry about it. So we're back in Polygon mode, and I am going to lock off this camera because we're going to be using this view quite a bit. So I'm just going to right click and come down Cinema 4D tags, to protection, and that will keep that from moving around. So you can click off of this camera. I'm still in perspective mode. Alright, I'm in the perspective viewport, even though it was a top view camera. And the only reason I did it that way is so I didn't have to change the render view, because we are going to render from the perspective view, but using the top camera. Okay, so let's go ahead and set up our texture first. It really doesn't matter which way we do this, but let's do the texture first, and you'll get kind of an idea what I'm doing here. Go up to Mograph, and we want to grab the Mo text. Okay, and right now it's not positioned the way we want, so let's grab the rotation, rotate that 90 degrees. Okay, and just pull that up a little bit. Okay, and take that Mo text and reduce the depth to 0, because we don't need any depth at all for what we're doing. And you might as well go ahead and reduce this down. We're going to reduce it down even more once we get closer. I'll bring it down to about there. Alright, and so in here I'm going to hit my cap lock, and I'm just going to start typing all these letters and symbols across my keyboard. Okay, I'm going to take off cap lock, type my numbers, and then I'm going to hit hold shift down and type my numbers again to get all the symbols. And that should be just about everything. It doesn't matter if you duplicate some things. Alright, so give that a second to get in there. Alright, so that looks pretty good. You just want to make sure you have everything. Now, if for some reason you want more symbols and less letters, or more numbers, or whatever, just type them into this. You know, just type in the extra ones. Okay. Alright, so now let's get a cloner. I have my cloner here, but just go up to Mograph Cloner, and I'm going to turn that off. Okay. We're going to actually set this to object mode, but until we throw the object in, you don't have any other controls, and we're not quite ready to throw that in there yet anyway. So what we want to do is take this Mo text object. Okay, so caps, okay, and I want to convert that. Just hit C, or actually let's leave it and let's do current state to object. That way it'll make a copy of that, and we'll still have that. I'm going to go ahead and save. So now we've got these numbers and letters, but it's really kind of a mess. They're in different null objects. So the easy way, I mean, you could just start grabbing these and pulling them under one null, but I tend to go in here, right click on the main null that's holding our objects, and say delete without children. And then I go up to the next one, delete without children. Okay, and then I really don't want them in this, delete without children. And then I'm going to take this whole null of all our symbols and numbers. I'm going to take it and I'm going to stick it in the cloner. Alright, and then I'm going to go ahead and delete without children again. I just didn't want to have to pull those in individually or try to grab them all. Okay, so now they're all in there. I'm going to turn that lines off, so there we go. Now we can't see the lines on the grid, and we'll turn them on in a second. So with the cloner selected, let's go into the object, and what we want to do is drag our plane down into here. Okay. Now it's not moving because I've got the cloner turned off, and the reason I have it turned off is I don't want it to distribute on vertexes and possibly overload my system, although in this case it probably wouldn't. But you do run into that. I want it to be on polygon center. Alright? And so now I can turn on my cloner, take a second, and now we've populated everything to the plane. Okay? And that's all pretty good, except, of course, we have everything is backwards. So I'm going to go into my cloner and go into the Transform tab, and I just want to hit, oops, I'm going to have to hit Z, even though the Y is what's sticking up. It's actually Z, and I wanted to just move everything up off that plane a little bit. Okay, and then in the rotate, let's just have to play with this. Yeah, it looks like it's going to rotate. In H is fine, should be 180. Alright, and now I am going to turn on this line so we can see that. And the reason all these are offset is because of how our motex was. It was reading from the left, and that's fine. I don't care, because we're going to just transform all of this anyway. We're going to move, oops, too much. I'm holding down Option to kind of get more control over the movement, and then we're going to move this down. Now, of course, these are way too big. So we could just go in and scale it here, but we have to keep scaling all three of these, and we've got a cloner, so we might as well use something, an effector, to affect our scale. And I'm going to name this scale, oops, scale for letters, numbers. Alright, so I'm going to zero this out because we're not using the position. I transformed that. But we are going to use scale, and we want it uniform, so we only have to change one parameter. Okay, and I'm just going to start cranking that down a little bit. Okay, and we can go and use our camera, top view camera. And the only thing I don't like about that is we can't really zoom in on it. So I'm going to get out of that and just go to top mode. And that way I can zoom in wherever I want. And top mode I hit is F2. So the size doesn't look too bad, but we're still not in the right position. So I'm going to, again, I'm holding down the Option key to get more control over the movement. And that looks pretty good. So now we've got mapped letters and numbers, and of course everything is kind of in order, but you'll see that the way Cinema maps, I'm going back to perspective mode, the way Cinema maps these UVs to our head, you're going to get quite a bit of variation on that. So now what we have is, let me click on this, and if we render that, you see that we have all our numbers and letters and a perfect 2048 2048 texture. And if we go in, and we can either turn this off if we want white letters on a perfectly black background, and basically now we have our letters and numbers set up. And you can further randomize these numbers and letters. They'll be pretty random when we apply them to our head, but you can further randomize them by going into the Cloner Object mode and clones and put that to random, and you see a change. And then if we go in, you see that none of the numbers are in sequence anymore. It's quite random. Just wanted to point that out. So I'm going to go back into perspective mode, and want to make this plane visible again, default, and I want to do the coloration on these different polygons. Alright, and so what we're going to do is we could possibly use a texture with tiling, squares and different things, but none of them will map the same way as our plane is. In other words, our plane is was 36 by 36 polygons. Well, everything that tiles in the textures for cinema is in percents, and it's tedious and crazy to try to get it to line up. So instead what I'm going to do is I came up with another way, and that is, you see I've got this one polygon selected, so you just want to, and it can be anyone, select a polygon and then come down, right click and say split. Okay, and this is going to be this single polygon. We can hide this again, visibility off, and so we've got this one polygon, but we do need to get the axis in the center. So let's go up to mesh, axis center, center axis 2. So now we've got it in there. I'm also going to turn off my cloner text. Actually, I'm going to rename that cloner text, and I'm going to hide that as well. Okay, so now we've got one polygon, and I am going to name it exactly that, one poly. Alright, and I'm going to come up to Mograph. I'm going to grab another cloner, stick that in there. Boop. If you remember, we had 1,246 polygons, so that's how many of these clones I want. I'm going to go to Object Mode. We're going to pull the plane in there. Give it a second. Yeah. And if you hit turn off a line clone, they'll lay down. And we don't want vertex. Again, we want polygon center, which will give us the exact amount of polygons that we need. And let's just put in here cloner for poly textures, so we can keep all this straight. So we want each of our clones, which is each of these polys, to be a different color. So let's start off with going up to Mograph Effectors, and let's use our Shader Effector. Alright, and we want to switch off scale. All we're going to use is color and default, and the shading. In our custom shader, let's go into noise, and then just click on that and select this one, cell noise, and let's reduce that down to about 50%. Okay, so you can already see that we're getting some variation in here, but we don't have much control over this. There's not a whole lot. We can change these and everything else, and I'm not going to go through it, but it doesn't do a whole lot. So what we need to do is create another texture. So let's double click in your materials, and we're going to drag this onto the cloner. Alright, and now you see everything's disappeared. I'm going to go in here, and we want to grab under Mograph the color shader. Alright, so now we've got this back, okay, and it's just reading color, but we need to be able to control the colors of those. So let's go in here and add a colorizer. Now you see we've got some crazy colors going on, and if I render, you can see it's rendering a different color for each of those squares. And then you can just go into the colorizer and you can add tabs or take them away. I'm just going to do a basic kind of grayish color for these keys, and that's good enough for now. I'm going to turn off the reflectance, because we don't need that. We're basically going to render our textures from this. And actually, I may have to go in here and darken these down a little bit. Alright, then a little darker on this one. Take a little of that color out. Then if we come in and take our cloner text and turn it back on, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit and hit render, and see we got our letters all on different color keys. Okay. Before we go any further, I want to render out these two textures. So let's go into our render settings and come down here to my render setting, and just hold down Control and drag a copy, and we're going to select that, and we're going to rename that keys color, and so that'll be the background color of the keys. And we want to go up, and in the anti-aliasing, set that to best, so it's good and sharp on close-ups. And to save, I'm going to save this. You see I've already got that here. I'm going to overwrite that. But I'm saving it in a text folder, TEX, in the Cinema 4D folder where I'm keeping the files. So say save, yeah, replace that. Okay. And now I want to hold down Control again, drag another copy, and I'm going to select it by clicking this little white box. That's the important one. Being highlighted isn't enough. Character. Alright, I'm just calling that key characters. Okay, and I'm going to just copy that word. Copy. And you can just go in and actually paste in characters. I don't know why this TIFF is on here. I'm going to remove that. And hopefully it doesn't mess it up. Okay, so and let's just double check that, make sure the anti-aliasing good. All that's set. Alright, so I want to create takes for these renders in case we have to re-render. I don't want to keep messing around with it. So in order to do that, we're going to have to put some of these things on layers, because just turning them visibility on and off for some reason doesn't always work with the take system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this cloner text, because that's one of the things we need to change. And I'm going to, where is that? Add to layer. Add to new layer. Let's get that so we can see it. And we're going to call that cloner text. Cloner text. And then I'm going to do the same thing with these polys. Say, oops, add to new layer. And that's, we're just going to copy and paste that. Copy, paste, name them whatever you want, of course. Alright, so let's give this a try, see how this is going to work. I'm going to our take system, and I select both of these. Alright, I'm going to hit a new take. I'm going to call this keys color, and do another one, and we're going to call this, I'm just going to copy and paste that. No, that's not what I want. Keys characters. And I spelled that wrong. Characters. Okay. So, let's go back to keys color. Let's get that one set up first. I'm going to select the camera. Oh, we do want to change the name of the camera. We're going to call this top, because we're going to add another camera in a little bit. And let's go choose top. And when we also want to choose key color, so that we've got those render settings. Now that that's selected, see, now here's what I mean by this rendering. You got to be careful of this. Even though key characters is highlighted, key color is the actual one we're using because of this white box. And just to check it, you see we've got the colors right there. Okay? So let's go back here and let's go into our objects. Now I've created a background. Okay, and with a texture, this is just a simple color, and I've chosen a color that is just one of these grays so that we just get a little fill in. It shouldn't matter, but I don't like having that black there. Okay, so for this, we should be able to go ahead and render. Alright, yeah, I've already rendered one out, so that's why that's doing that. Okay. So now we want to turn off, we want to turn off the text, which actually was already turned off here. We do want to turn that on, alright, because we're going to control that now. We're going to control that now with the layers. Alright, so just to make sure gets a little confusing. So now so that our take for the color is correct, let's turn off the text render and visibility. Alright? Now let's go to the key characters. Again, you have to select the box to get it to change. Alright? You see what happened there? Just even though I have that selected, it's not doing anything until I hit this box. It's a little misleading. So in there, let's go again, choose the top camera. This time we're going to choose the render of key characters render. And now we have everything turned on again, which we don't want. So let's go in, and this time we're going to turn off the poly textures. We're going to turn off the visibility and the render. So if I hit a quick render, it's good, except we don't want that background to be the gray for the key characters. So I'm going to go in here, and we're going to take this, and we're going to change that to black. Now, it should work, and that worked. Now if we go back into our takes, let's just double check and make sure that everything's working. And it appears that it is. So now we're back to the gray. We'll go into our key characters render, switch back to black, and we're good to go. And it should have, even though that's selected, it's key characters that is the one that's going to render, and that's what we have. So now we're all set up. Again, if you are on a version of Cinema that doesn't have the takes, you're just going to have to set it up a different way, or just remember to change it. And I don't know how many times you're actually going to be rendering this. So with key characters take selected, I'm going to go ahead and hit render, and that's going to render that out, and that should be that for now. I'm going to save it. So let's apply these textures to our key head file. So I'm going to go to that, and I'm going to hide this plane for right now and show our head. Okay, so we've already got a texture on there, so we can use that. So in the color, I'm going to bring in, load an image, and I'm going to load the color. Alright, and so let's do a quick render, and that's looking really good. And so I'm going to layer this. So I want to go to layer and then click on this icon to get in there, and we're going to choose another image, which will be the characters. Alright, and we want to set that to add. Okay, and then if you want to see it a little better, you can go in. It will slow things down, so I'm just going to go to half our resolution. But at least now you can see, you could go all the way, but I think it's going to slow things down. Maybe not. But at least you can get some idea. You can see it a little better. I think it's overkill. I'm going to go back. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick render. Alright, and I'm going to just do a quick random effector. Just want to see, make sure everything's working, and it looks good. And if we go in here and set this to turbulence and set this to about 5 and hit play, you can see everything's moving and it's all correct. That's all good. Alright, I'm just going to get rid of that. I do want to show you one quick thing on the texture. If you go back into the color tab, click on this, and just to show you that we can actually affect these colors without re-rendering anything, I'm going to go into effects and just choose U saturation and put it down here. And if I start playing with that, there we go, you can see it start to update. Too light. You can saturate it, desaturate it. So there's a lot we can do just with, I'm going to check that 5. just within the material itself without re-rendering. And you can also add in, say, a color, and let's just say red. Okay, and we're going to turn that off a second. And now if we change this to, say, overlay, now we've got a whole red motif. Turn this back on. A lot of combinations. Have it all blue. Anyway, I just wanted to show that to you. A lot you can do. I'm going to just delete those right now. Get back to our original. Takes a minute to update. And there we go. Alright, now it's time to create our keys. So I want you to just create a new file, and you don't even have to save it because we're just going to use it for a second. And go into your content browser. I've got this docked up here. I don't even remember what the default is. And we're going to search for the word keyboard in the content browser. And you'll see that there's a computer keyboard here. So just double click that into the viewport. And you can see it's going to be really small. So I'm going to go ahead and blow it up a little bit right now. And then we're going to adjust the size of the key we need later. And I'm going to just dump all these textures so we can see what we've got. And if you roll this open and open the keys and go down to any of these cloners, if you turn that cloner off, you'll see that's that row. So just grab this key out of there. Alright, and you can just throw the rest of this away. And so we want to get this axis, we want to center that axis to that key. So go up to Mesh, Axis Center, Center Axis 2. And I'm going to get my, and then just, if you've got this palette in there, just 0 P and R. If you don't, all you have to do is right click on these two arrows and you can center these out and there's no rotation on it. So I'm going to blow this up just a little bit more. I think it might still be too small, but we can adjust it later. So I want you to go into the one of the side views. I've got the side view, the right. And what we want to do is we want to get this axis down here. So I'm going to go into the axis tool, and I'm also going to turn on snapping, but I want to see, we need edge snap. Okay, so with edge snapping and the axis tool, I'm going to bring this down, just bring it straight down until it snaps on there. Turn off the snapping, turn that off, go back into perspective mode, and I'm going to zero that out one more time, and now it's sitting perfectly where we want it. Now if you want to, you can go ahead and save this as key, just so you have it, just in case something happens, and I'll just save that in there. And so I'm going to take that and I'm going to rename it key. Okay, I'm going to take that and I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go back to our top view grid, and I'm just going to paste that in there. Okay, so actually it's going to be way big. So I'm going to get out of this. Alright, and let's, well, I kind of messed up a little bit. We're going to go back to the main and see what happens. Okay, so our key stayed in there, so that's good. So in the main, we want to, in the main take, we want to take this cloner and we're going to hide that. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, the polys, we want to hide that. And we're going to hide the text too. And we're going to show the main plane. Alright, so let's get that on. Okay, so yes, so I went way crazy with the size of that key. So let's go ahead and reduce it down a little bit. That's good enough for now. It's close enough. So what we're going to do is the same thing we've done with the letters and the polygon, is we're going to get another cloner. I have mine docked here. And I'm going to throw that in. And we're going to name this cloner keys. Alright. This should be, yep, textures and text. Okay. Cloner keys, we want to make that object mode, and I'm going to turn that off, and then I'm going to pull the plane into this. Once these pop up, then I can change that to Polygon Center, and then I'll turn that back on. And it's going to take a second, and there we go. So, not sure why it brings things in on the side like that. Turn off Align Clone, they'll lay down. And that's looking pretty good. But of course our keys are way too big. So I'm going to go into top mode, and I'm going to put this to garage shading. That's not going to work. Garage shading lines maybe. It's annoying. Let's do something. I'm going to put a texture on that so I can tone down that color. Okay, and let's get it out of line. That's not going to work. Alright, that's a little better. So let's use a plane effector to go ahead and reduce these down. We wouldn't have to. We could just grab this and hit your scale tool and just scale that. But and that works okay. Let's see. I'm going to hide this again. Yeah, I'm going to use I don't like that way. I'm going to use a plane effector, and we're going to do plane effector. We're going to use cloner. Cloner keys, so we know what it is. And so in the parameters, okay, that may not have gone into the effector tab. No, it did. Okay, so in the parameters, we're going to turn off position. It didn't even move them for some reason. And we're going to do scale, and we're going to do uniform scale. Okay, yeah, much better. Alright, so let's give this a little color so we can actually see what's going on. There we go. And okay. Now you see what's happening. This key is not actually square. So we need to fix that. If you come down to this down here, you see that it's 12.5 37 by 13. So I think we can just go in here and make that 13, and I'm going to just get rid of that. Okay, nothing's going to happen until you hit apply. Okay, so now that fixed our key, so now it's square, because we do want it square. We want it to map to this. So I'm going to leave just a bit of space between those. Okay? Alright, so now we want to set up our camera for the depth map that we're going to do. So let's go up here. I'm in top mode, but that's fine. Create a camera, and we're going to look through it. Oops, I may not be able to. That's fine. That's fine. Let's go into the perspective mode, and we're going to change that camera we just added to a parallel camera. And we're going to look through it, and it's probably going to get a little crazy, and that's okay. If you have this palette, go ahead and zero the position rotation out. And let's call this keys dimension. Oops. Keys dimension. Okay. And if you go into the side view, we can see that the camera is pointing the wrong direction. So if we go into P and want it to look straight down and -90, alright, and there's a parallel camera, which means there's no perspective. It looks straight down everywhere, and that's exactly what we want. And I had a little play around with this, and these are kind of arbitrary numbers, but if we put the camera at 1000 in Y, okay, and then we go to our object mode and make our focal distance 1000. Alright, it pulls it right up to the bottom of our keys. And I am going to give it just a tenth more, just so we're covered. Alright, and we need to get these sides aligned perfectly on this. And because we've deleted some of these polygons off our main plane, we can't really see where the sides are. So I'm going to, just for the ability to be able to see this, I'm going to click a new plane into there, and it's 400, 400. And I'm going to raise it up so we can see it always. Okay. And then I'm going to go back into our camera. So now you can see that line. And if we go into our zoom, let's start, oops, that's 2.6 is too much. Alright, so I'm going to hold down Option, start clicking this in until we get it lined up right on the edge of that, and that's too much. I'm going to try 2.56, and that looks pretty good. Now you see it's not coming all the way to the end, but that's because this is where we got rid of the polygons, so that's going to be perfect. If we go into our front view, that should line up as well. Okay, so that's all good. I'll just stay in the front view. I'm going to turn that plane off. We don't need to see that. So we have our focus distance, okay, set perfectly. It's just below our keys, and I mean we could even, if we wanted to, add a, could be 0.01, and so it really is on there. Yeah, it's down right below there. And then what we want to do is we want to go into our Details tab and activate the Map Front Blur, and I know 1000 is going to be way too much. So let's bring this down to about 5 and see where that gets us. Now you see that line there. This is the line we're adjusting now, and you can grab this and just move it down, and you want to get it really close to the top of these keys. Okay, and I'm noticing something that probably wouldn't bother us much, but we want it as clean as possible once you get this adjusted. So I'm at 4.19, and you could come down a little bit more. 4.18, make it, that's fine. I have 4.182. What I'm noticing is this rough edge, this, so we can fix that pretty easy. I'm going to click a subdivision surface into my viewport, and I'm going to set that down to 1 and 1. We don't need any more than that, and that'll just clean things up a little bit, hopefully not distort things too much, and I think that'll give us a little smoother map. I'm going to go, I'm going to click out of this camera 1 second and make sure I'm in perspective mode. Okay. Alright. I just want to see what these look like. Yeah, I think they'll be fine. Alright. Get out of line mode. Okay. Those look good. Alright, so I'm going to go back into my camera keys dimension, and let's right click and get a protection tag, because we don't want that to move on us either. Alright. Okay, I do want to change one thing. It's a little anal retentive here, but change this to keys depth map, because the name I put on there was really dumb, and at least this, and I'll spell depth right here. At least this, we know what it is now. Okay. Now we need to set up our render settings for this depth map. So let's go into render settings, and I'm going to grab key characters, and I'm going to hold Control and drag a copy, and we're going to call this key depth map. So there's no doubt about it. Now I want to go in there and select that just to make sure everything's right. And you want to go over here and select Multipass. Alright, and if you come down under Multipass, come all the way to the bottom and to depth. Hopefully you can see that. Hopefully it's not going to cut off, but it's all the way at the bottom. And that's going to show up. There's no real parameters for that. But if we go back into our save field, you see now that we have another field. So we're in the depth map. I'm going to change this to depth map. I'm going to select all that, copy it, and paste it in here. Now, layer name as suffix is clicked, so I don't have to worry that these are both the same. This is going to add an additional thing to this, so we're good there. So we don't really need to save this render. We only need the depth map. So you can click that off. But go in here to Photoshop and let's change this to a ping. Alright, and leave it at 16 bits. And what we want to do is go into our takes and we want to add another take. Okay, and that's going to be for our key depth map. Okay. And for this, we want to make sure it's selected. We want to come down here to Camera Keys Depth Map. And render setting is Key Depth Map. So, if we go back into our view, everything's set up here. Go back into our view. We don't have to worry about the color. We should be good to go, so let's run this thing. I'm going to go up, hit render. And it's rendering, and you see it's rendering this orange, okay? But if you go into layer and you click single post, or single pass, I'm sorry, you can see it's rendering our depth map, okay? And that rendered pretty quickly. So I'm just going to click that closed. And I'm going to go back into Head Computer Keys. Alright, and for this we want to activate our Displacement tab, and we're going to load the image and we're going to get our depth map. Alright, so you want to come down here. We do want to change this. We don't want it displacing in both directions, just one direction. So we're going to set that to just intensity. And you want the sub-polygon displacement. And let's set this to 6. And we do want rounded geometry. And I probably can leave everything like that. So let's hit render. Okay, and right away you see that we have some dimensional keys showing up. Alright, okay, so that looks good. I'm going to come in close and I want to add in our reflectance, I want to add in a little specular, and that's all I'm going to add at this point, because when you start getting into, and you're going to want to add reflections and everything else, but it is going to definitely increase your render time. But this is going to give us an idea what's going on. So I just added a specular blend, and so if we go up to render and render that, and you can see how fast that's rendering. Now it's a little rough here, so I'm going to go into the render settings and change the anti-aliasing to best. Alright, and we'll render again. And yeah, displacement doesn't really take long to render normally. So I do want to come in close and just hit that again so you can see this. See, these keys are still connected, and so that's what we want to fix next. So if you're using the take system, let's make sure we're in the main take. All right, and we want to go to our cloner keys for the depth map, and I'm going to right click and I want to go down and add a compositing tag. Alright, and I'm going to leave that off for a second. I'm going to go into the take and add a new one, and we're going to call this key mask. Alright, we do want to use the same camera, which is this depth map camera, but we haven't set up a render settings, so let's go in there, and I'm going to grab this key characters and hold down Control and make a copy, and then make sure I've got it selected and change that to mask. The reason I didn't grab the depth map one is because I don't want the depth, and I could have just deleted it. But so we've got our anti-aliasing, the save, we want to change that to mask. Okay, and that's fine. Everything should be fine. Okay, so I do want to go back in here, and I do want to make sure, yep, that's selected. I want to click out of here. I want to make sure that, while we're in key mask mode, that we go into our compositing tag, click on mask object, and choose white. Alright, and if I hit a quick render, see they're rendering white, but I need that background to be black. So I'm going to go in there, double click, and go into the color, and I'll just make it black. So now we get a nice contrast between our white and black, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so I'm going to just go into this key depth map, change that back, and good. Alright, back to key mask. Everything switched over. It chose our correct render name. So let's go ahead and render that. Okay, so back in our head file, I'm going to double click our material, and let's go down and add alpha. And we go to our alpha, and let's load an image, our key mask. Okay, and already you can see that we've got spaces in there. Render that real quick. And it's not real obvious, and the reason is because we're seeing the keys. I'm going to go inside here, and we're seeing this texture on the insides of the keys as well. So if we go in here, just click once, and let's set this to front. Now we're not getting that texture on the inside, but we still need to fix that too. So let's create a black, totally black material, and if you just deselect everything, and we'll put that on the head, we will map that to just the back. Okay, and so now when we come out and render, you can see that we get a nice space between our keys. Plus we're getting some nice little highlights on the bottoms of the keys. Okay, and so that all works out really nice. So let's do another quick render. Okay, so now let's go ahead and animate these keys. So I'm going to grab the poly effects, and we come up to Mograph Effectors and grab the Shader Effector. We want to click out of scale, click into position. Let's put in -3 for now. And so everything kind of collapsed. I'm going to deselect that, go into the shading, and the shader I'm going to grab noise, and we're going to click, and let's grab cell noise. And so I can see this better, I'm going to open this window. Now we can see that texture a lot better. And first thing I'm going to do is basically crank up the contrast, because all I want is black and white. I either want the key up or the key down. And then I'm going to go in and change the global scale to, let's say, 30%. And that should be good. Okay, so let's get out of here, go back to the parameter tab, and let's switch on position. And you can see we've got some nice movement. So let's hit that. Now if you start getting this, okay, all I have to do is, and if you like it, that's fine, but all you have to do is go into Displacement and turn off Round Contour, okay, and then that'll get us back to normal keys. And it probably could use a little more spacing, so if we go into our plane effector and let's make this actually let's make it 0.05, and you saw them separate a little bit, and you can play around with that, but I kind of like a little more space in there, and that's looking real good. Okay, so we do want to get our movement though, and we need to go back into our shader effector, click on this, and let's just add in about 5, I think, and we'll hit play, and we've got nice movement. If you want to make it faster, you crank this up to 8 maybe, and pretty much whatever you want. So I'll give it another render. And that looks good. So I do want to tell you one more thing. It looks good and it renders fast, except that it doesn't look real. So if we go in, I've added some ambient occlusion. I'm going to activate that. Now this is going to increase the render time considerably. But you can see that, no you can't, let me go in closer, and we're just going to grab this. And eventually, you know, you're going to want to add some lighting. Global illumination for me did not work real well. I ended up having to use my own GI rig to light this and to get it to really look good. But anyway, so there it is. Hope you learned something. Hope you had fun, and we'll see you next time.